Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you and I have spoken in the past about the challenge that the healthcare system and Americans are facing on antimicrobial resistance. This is something that cost our system tens of thousands of lives and over $4.5 billion a year. We've talked about some of the challenges with the innovation, research and development, and we've got a bill out there called the Pasteur Act that creates a unique pull system to pull these drugs into the market. Do you believe that congressional action is needed to address this issue?
Absolutely agree with that, and thank you for the effort. It's not been an easy road, but we absolutely need something because we're not going to get the medicines and the attention that we need unless we have congressional action.
And look, we appreciate the commitment through things like BARDA, and there's been a long-standing commitment to doing the basic research, but when these small, innovative companies, they almost go bankrupt getting the product developed. We have to develop that pool. So I appreciate your answer on that. I want to go back. When the question was asked about the hospital in Denver, the Safety Net Hospital, and you said you would work with them. We've got about 10 million people conservatively that have come across the border in the last 3 years. With 10 million people, you're going to have a lot of those folks that are going to get sick, they're going to break a bone, they're going to have a baby, stuff is going to happen. Where does the money come from? What pot of money comes out to help a hospital in Denver with that? Where does that fund? You said you'll work with them. It's going to take money. Where does that money come from?
Congressman, thank you for the question. Now, let me speak to you from the perspective.
Oh, no. If I could interrupt.
Okay.
Who is paying for that right now?
Okay, so you're asking me to put myself in the shoes of that facility, and it's without being actually the person in the shoes. It's hard for me to give you a precise answer.
Somebody's paying for it. I think if you could get back to us with a summary of who is paying for the care of the folks that are in the country illegally, I think that would be helpful. That's probably a longer answer, and if you could submit that to us in writing at a later date, we'd greatly appreciate that. I just want to understand where it's coming from, because if it's coming from the local level, that puts a tremendous burden on that local hospital. If it's coming from the federal level, that's an expense and a burden on our budget that we have to figure that component out. So if you'll come back to us on that. You've heard about, again, the one-size-fits-all policies with the nursing homes. Again, I just want to emphasize, I'm not going to beat on this point, but it's not working, and that will not work in rural America. It does not matter how much you pay folks. We simply don't have enough healthcare workers there to meet what the proposed rule is. And I know that y'all have been investing in healthcare workforce, but that's not happening fast enough to keep up with the proposed changes. And
Congressman, if I could.
Yes.
Because it is not a one-size-fits-all proposal. And for rural communities, the standards are different than they are for large, denser populated urban areas. So just to be sure, it's clear that how it would work and apply to a facility in a rural setting is different from how it would work in an urban setting.
And again, I'm going to fold in another component of this. When you're in a rural area, and I'm in a rural district just south of Metro Atlanta, we've got a problem with the wages down there potentially coming if we look at if we don't extend the low wage index hospital policy. It's too easy for nurses, physicians, other providers to drive 40 minutes to Metro Atlanta to get 3 times the wages. So that's something that's got to fix. And I would just ask that you would commit or find a way to do an extension of the low wage index hospital policy.
We're committed to work with you and others who have an interest in making sure we have a good policy.
Thank you. One final thing. 14 years ago with the implementation of the ACA, it was supposed to be a panacea of things that worked well. I'll ask 3 questions. Number 1, is health care less expensive today than it was 14 years ago? Are Americans as a whole healthier today than they were 14 years ago? And while you may have access, is utilization amongst our most vulnerable better today than it was 14 years ago? By every metrics that I can find, healthcare costs more. America as a nation is not healthier. and we still have an immense problem with utilization by the folks that are the most vulnerable. So with that, I make that comment that we can't view it as the system is perfect right now. We've got, before we go dump a couple of $100 more billion into raising the subsidies for wealthy Americans, we've got to fix what's broken in the system. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr.